Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CXPA sponsored webinar by OPINATOR about saying goodbye to boring surveys. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Molly Perrin, and I am a membership community manager here at the CXPA. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be emailed to you later today. The recording will also be made available on the brand new webinars page of the CXPA website. I would definitely encourage you to check out the changes that we've made to our website at cxpa.org. And for our CCXP certified attendees, this webinar is CRC eligible and will be recorded in your account within 2 weeks. I would like to introduce our speaker for today. David Solana is the co-founder and chief sales and marketing officer at OPINATOR. Before starting up OPINATOR, David held different management positions at leading corporations, most notably at Microsoft, where he pioneered and led the mobile division. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please do enter them into the chat box on your GoToWebinar control panel. We will have time for Q&A later on this hour. But now, without further ado, I will hand it over to David to get us started.
Thank you so much, Molly. And thank you to everyone at CXPA for the excellent work that you do for the community. Hi, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I hope you are all well. And thank you very much for everyone attending this webinar today. In the next 40 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can improve the way in which you gather feedback, collect insights, and measure experiences across different touch points and different channels, and how you can start applying some techniques and best practices in your VOC, Voice of the Customer, NPS, or Customer Experience Management programs. For years, we've been hearing that surveys are dead. First of all, can you hear me well? Can you see my screen? Just to double check.
Yes, David, we can see that perfectly. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So for years, we've been hearing that surveys are dead. And it's true. The old, boring, inefficient surveys that we are being constantly bombarded with is no longer effective to connect with your customers, to gather insights, or to listen to their voices or measure their experiences. And, we've been working for years on transforming this into a much better, richer, smarter, and potentially more profitable experience for customers and enterprises and businesses. While surveys, are dead, at the same time, the need to listen to customers and to measure experiences is more important than ever. And, in the last decade, two major trends have developed that have made it very, very important, that we achieve that. First of all, communication has been moving overwhelmingly to digital channels. Almost 10 years ago, Gartner was saying that by today, 85% of all communication will be digital between a company and their customers, whether in B2C or B2B. And of course, we all know that now with the pandemic, this has become even more so because, mostly there is no face-to-face communication and, everything that companies do, from how they promote their products, how they sell, has become digital. At the same time, CX has become the top factor for companies to win and retain clients, even more important than their own products and services. When you put together those two trends, what you get is that building effective digital interactions and measuring experiences is more important than ever. So yes, surveys are dead, but listening to your customers, measuring their experiences is more important than ever. So it is key that you do that that you get that right. And one of the things I would say, one of the big differentiators of Opinator is that we started thinking of surveys, 10 years ago when we started the company, fundamentally as digital interactions, as experiences. And we've been gathering knowledge over the years about how to move from those old, boring, pre-digital era formats, because they came from the pen and paper world, to something richer, to something much more human, and to something much more relevant, okay? And we came to the conclusion that in order to successfully measure an experience, you need to create one, and you need the right tools in order to do that. So we are here today to share some of those learnings, some of those findings, some of the trial and error that we've been doing over the years and how it has positively impacted some of our clients. Those learnings and techniques and hacks, let's see what they are. First of all, build the emotional connection. Make it simple and fast. Merge measurement into business processes, into the very processes. Implement real-time decisioning. Personalize feedback. Do A/B testing. Experiment with gamification, rewards, incentives. Apply text analytics to get intelligence from the comments, from the verbatims that your customers are going to be leaving you. Close the loop, generate tickets and be able to, connect back to your customers, either to, fix things or to, create new opportunities. There are red flags, but there are also green flags. And very important, something that we also started working on many years ago, how to drive value and even revenue from closer customer programs, from NPS, from customer experience management programs. Okay, so there we go. Build an emotional connection. So the first thing that we did at Opinator was to focus, and I'm going to jump here to my browser and start showing you things in real time. Start working on increasing the engagement rates and response rates of some of our of the surveys that our clients were launching to their customers. How do we do that? Well, we came up with this new concept that we call the OP, which is a format for building different types of digital interactions, such as surveys, forms. It's all multimedia. It's all it's completely modular, based on building blocks. So, you don't need to develop anything. You just move blocks around. And the great thing is that we enable companies to interact with their customers, like with this slider there on screen, to interact with their customers using their own products and services, their own branding elements. So OPs, with the OPs, you turn surveys into an extension of your brand. And that's a key thing to do. Guys like Forrester have been saying that also for years, because your companies are investing, millions in branding, advertising, marketing. But when it comes to interacting with your customers, you're still using those old radio buttons, checkboxes, etc. Well, no more. Now you can, be much more creative, much more human, and leverage those branding elements and the power of your brand. And as you can see, you can do that with very innovative elements of interaction. In this case, you have here a drag and drop. If customers, if you want to ask customers what they're most interested in, etc. And once again, each OP is going to look completely different from the next one. Okay, so for instance, in this case, this auto company is, using a slider with the very car to measure NPS, right? And you have other elements, some of which you have already seen. So, going back to my PPT, it is very important to create that experience with very visual and engaging elements, okay? Stand out from the pack, do something different. Don't do, exactly the same as every other company is doing. And you can move beyond those old elements of interaction and use your own ones very, very easily. And add, multimedia. You can include audio, video, animations, and of course, this is all completely responsive. So everything that I'm showing you and all those examples, you can integrate them into websites. You can put them on any digital channel that you can think of. You can send them to your customers over email, text messages, WhatsApp, etc., with the guarantee that whatever device they use to open that survey or OP on, it'll look perfect. All right. And here you have some examples adapted for different elements, and some things that we've been doing with some of the brands and companies that we work with. Number 2, make it simple and fast. We're not just talking about making it simple and fast for your target audience, but also for your people, for your organization. In our experience, voice of customer programs, NPS, customer experience management programs, they're not just, implemented, deliver, and that's it. They require, a constant, program management, add things, change all the things, etc. And, all of the customers all the clients that we work with, we have very strong customer success department that works with them on a daily basis to ensure that they get absolutely what they, everything they need. But at the same time, they're able to do those things, in a self-managed way. All right, let me show you an example of something that I received last week. You've been selected to take a short 9-minute survey. Come on. Does everyone expect any of us to spend 9 minutes to just help you improve your site? Okay, and then, it's page after page after page of things like this, all right? And many years ago, when we started, this guy that I like very much, Total Guru, he said, we value your opinion. What a stupid statement, okay? We need to do better than this. And you can do better than this. How? Okay, by saying goodbye to, those long, endless ways, and start caring, really caring about your customers. And you do that by building very brief digital interactions. We live in a frantic world. No one is going to give you, not even just 1 minute of their time. But if it's just a few seconds, and if you combine that with other techniques that you are going to see, the design, being relevant, being in the right place at the right time, being context dependent, transactional interactions, then you're going to nail it. Right? Seconds, not minutes. Keep it down to 1 page, please. There are studies when you go from 1 page to the next one, you're going to lose a big chunk of your customers, just because they're not going to be willing to start again, and start answering, responding to your questions. Ideally, 1 page with no scrolling, 4 to 5 questions. I think there is like a 45% increase in response rates when you come down from 10 to 4 questions. And if you need to, get more insights, there are things that you can do. This happens to us all the time, right? So you say, okay, ideally, I know that I should have, just 4 or 5 questions in my survey, but, there are all these departments that want to know so many things about our customers that my surveys keep getting longer and longer. Well, we can help, technology can help, because there are ways to apply, for instance, A/B testing, so that, each individual person will get to answer or to respond to just a few questions, but as a whole, you'll get, responses to many more. All right. So there are many more things than you can do. At the same time, as I said, it's not just about caring about your customers, but also your own people and yourselves as CX practitioners. And you're looking now at the back end of OPINATOR. I'm showing you very briefly, how easy it is to build and to edit those little guys, the OPs, with which you can build different surveys. We're looking at one here, very innovative elements of interaction. Literally, we come up with new elements of interaction every single week. Okay, and when we've seen the same question, question or element of interaction in 2 or 3 OPs, we start saying, oh, this is old. So let's innovate even more. Okay, and so one of the things that you can do with design platforms is that you can very easily change things around, move things around. So for instance, if you wanted to change the order of the options here, you just drag and drop there. Or if you wanted to change the questions themselves, you pick this, okay, drop it there, etc. And you save it, and in 3 seconds it's ready. The next person that accesses that survey is going to get a different one. Okay, can you see it there? This one looking different than the other one, and so on and so forth. Super easy. You can add, tons of different elements to interact with your customers. Once again, think of this as building a digital interaction. You need to have a great user interface. This is exactly what people do when they build a website, when they build a mobile app, because they know that if they don't get that user interface right, it's not going to fly. And you should be doing the same thing with your surveys. Otherwise, your target audience is not going to interact with you. So there are many ways to create surveys. Several ways actually to self-manage that. From cloning existing OPs or surveys, and literally we have hundreds of different ones that you can choose from, or you can just upload an Excel file, and basically it merges with a certain template, and it just magically starts creating new surveys for you. You can choose one template from the library, or you can do it from scratch. Okay, and you can do it yourself, or you can get help with the design from us or any other party. All right, third point: merge the measurement process into the business process. And the first thing that I'm going to do here, I'm going to jump and show it to you with an example. By the way, this is another OP that I very much like. Very dynamic, and you get, of course, conditional jumps. More on that later. All right. Okay, another one here, also super nice, where you get the film here unrolled. And let's get, actually, this OP is one that we use ourselves to get feedback from sessions like this webinar. All right, and you can drag and drop things here. So super cool. Okay, so let's get to how you integrate these OPs into business processes. All right, and here we have a very common process when someone is signing up for something, paying for something, buying something, etc. And what we have done here, and this is very, very typical, most of our clients have very similar processes where they want to measure very precisely what is happening exactly at different touch points for in different customer journeys. So basically, customer here, 4 steps, is going to go from one step to another, and then at some point she might take an action like go back, abandon the process, or even do nothing. And those are all events that we can capture and launch specific OPs depending on them. So for instance, this person clicked on cancel, and at that point you're interested in learning what is happening there, right? So there are a number of things, there are a number of OPs that you could be showing there. But imagine that that person had not abandoned that process at that point, had continued and reached the third and big moment of truth where she has to make a deposit or a payment or whatever, and then she clicks on cancel. And what you see here is that what has happened is not what happened before. And there are 2 very important concepts that we are applying here, in a very, very seamless way, integrated with business process, but very powerful concepts. One of them is the concept of context-dependent surveys. Okay, they are not the same for those 2 touch points. Okay. And the second one is event-driven interactions. So when this kind of conversation, because a survey, you should take it really as a conversation starts, there are 2 things that this company already knows. One, where this person was, and second, what she was doing. Again, you could associate different events to different surveys. And in that way, what you get is a very natural way for people to interact with you as part of the process. And we've seen so many examples of this. Actually, someone, after I was demoing OPINATOR and different OPs to her at a conference, and after she had, completed some of them, played around with some of them, she said, "But where is the survey?" Because she was very obviously expecting to find, those old black and whites, check boxes and radio buttons. So she didn't even realize that she was completing a survey. To her, it was like part of the process. As you can imagine, when you start combining these techniques, we are seeing increases in response rates of 5 times, 7, 10, even 15 times. Companies that came to us, I remember one bank in Latin America with a 4% on average response rate. We took it to 41%. Companies, we're working with telcos that are getting below, response rates below 2%, moving them to 20, 25, 30%. So very spectacular. It's a combination of techniques. Customer journey specific, context dependent, and event driven. And of course, you can do that across every channel. I just showed one of them, which is the website. But as I mentioned, we are integrating OPs from the more traditional channels like mail or even text messages to the most modern ones like chatbots or messenger, even social networks, etc. Real-time decisioning. We love this part because it's, when we started thinking about OPINATOR, we started from scratch. We didn't think of it as yet another survey platform. We wanted to build something different and that could be much more relevant for our customers and much more valuable to companies. So one of the things that we started thinking about was, this very process of, how information was collected and acted upon. And traditionally, it was all about collecting information and storing it, collecting insights and storing them, etc. But people were neglecting the most important piece in digital communication, which is the very moment when someone is interacting with you, touching your products, telling you this, telling you that. You might be asleep or, at the beach, in that moment, but that person interacting with you, with his device, with his laptop, is really talking to you. And we started thinking, we've spent, tens of thousands of hours thinking about how to take things that are very natural in the real world. When we talk, face to face to someone, we are constantly combining information that we know about that person, whether this person is my brother, whether I know this person or not, the last time that I talked to this person, the context where that conversation is taking place, to build the most meaningful interaction, right? So for instance, if you're selling something to someone, whether you talked to that person, a few days ago, because that is going to influence your conversation. Okay, so what we did was to build within the platform a real-time decisioning system. Okay, real-time intelligence basically into the system that would enable companies to combine different types of data, things that someone is telling you with things that you already know about that person, with things that other people might have done in that same touch point, with information about the context, the event that launched this interaction, etc., etc., etc. And so, OPINATOR has a very unique architecture because it's based on the three pillars of what we call the emotion, the front end, the interface, which is needed, which is essential to achieve anything else, the intelligence in real time, and then the action, okay, and of course the analytics. And with the within the real-time decisioning, one of the things that we have built is a multi-response system. You need to have the ability to respond instantly to different people in different ways, and of course to do that across every channel. One of the things, I will not get into a detail here, but one of the things that we do is to we've developed an omnichannel fatigue control or saturation control, so that the first time that someone does something, you can have one kind of interaction or one kind of survey. The second time you could decide not to show anything to that person or to show a different thing. And that's exactly what I was going to talk about now. And I think it's better to show that with an example. So let me show you. And by the way, here, let me actually jump here first. Show you very quickly, some of the things that we are doing to personalize interactions. And one of the first questions that we ask a bank, for instance, when we start talking to them is that, are you measuring experiences depending on who you are talking to, on who you are sending a survey to? Because you cannot, in the real world, face to face, you wouldn't talk in the same way to someone that has been with you for 20 years and is your best customer and has $1 million in your bank than to someone who just opened an account yesterday and is already in the red. You would have very different conversations with those two people. But as of today, most companies, they're surveying their customers in exactly the same way. So they're losing opportunities to be much more specific, to identify opportunities, etc. So imagine, this bank that I'm logging on to this bank. I'm John. Okay, so when I log on, here the event is just the logging on. So 2 seconds later, they have this program of pre-approved loans, and they want to know certain things and kind of build different personas for people that might be interested in that kind of product. And you see that it's completely customized. Hello, John, you have blah blah blah. And if we now log on as Mary, okay, so we get a different thing. And even depending on the segment or persona, of course, everything could have changed. Actually, what we've been evolving to is to really, instead of having a static survey, we are generating those OPs, those surveys dynamically, depending on who the person you're going to interact with you. And one great thing that I can show here is that this is implemented with saturation control. So I just logged on again as Mary, and nothing happens. Okay, so for X weeks, this person could see no other survey, and that's done automatically. And even better, if I now log on here as Michael, all right, the first time that you are talking to this person, for instance, because he just created an account, you want to segment this person, do a bit of research, get some insights, etc. But imagine I'm going to go back and reload, and imagine that this person logs on 2 days later, okay? And what she gets is, wow, a different thing. I did exactly the same thing, but she's getting something, or he's getting something different. All right. Now you want to do a survey because this person perhaps has been already interacting with you, and you want to know a bit more about his experiences. All right. And that in that way you can get much more precise as to what your customers need per segment, per user, etc., and identify very precisely points of customer effort. A/B testing, it's a technique that we apply a lot to for different things. A/B testing, as you know, is just randomly showing 2 or more versions of a digital format, survey, whatever it is, and see which one works better. Actually, it's not completely random. You have the ability to control. You could say, 70% of the time show A, 30% show B, etc. But you can also randomly change the order of questions, the options within a question, and also something very useful, which is you can divide a long survey into smaller parts, as I said before. So if you have 20 questions, you could create 5 OPs with 4 questions each, and each person would get randomly one or the other. Let me show you how this works. So for instance, if we have here this OP that I showed you before, you can see we have first this element of interaction, this second, and this is the third one. Okay, now imagine, and in order to do that, I'm going to go, for instance, here. Imagine that you had a link, for instance, on an email that you send to your customer. All right, could be any channel. Once again, I click there. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not this one. It is this one. Okay, it is this one. A/B testing. Okay, so I check there, and please, note the URL. Okay, and this could be, of course, completely personalized. But you can see that we, right away we got a different version, a shorter version than what we had before. Let's click there again, double click. Okay, and I get another one. Okay, and actually, when I build this myself. So you can, like in 10 minutes. So you can tell how easy it is, and you can start measuring different things. In some cases, we are shortening the survey. In other cases, we're just changing the elements, etc. Okay, so you can see there, for instance, we compare this with the original one. You can see that the elements have changed. Very powerful tool that our clients, our technique that our clients are doing, and that we definitely recommend that you experiment with. Gamification incentives. There is a lot of controversy with this, and customers ask us all the time, "Oh, you see a slant or a bias?" I'm afraid of including rewards or incentives because then participation is going to go up, but also it could affect the value and how people are going to be responding to that. In our experience, it's worth experimenting with it, and we have a complete incentives and rewards platform. You can start with a control group. What we see typically is that people, of course, are incentivized, so they participate more. Your response rates are going to go up, and people, once they are into the survey, they are as honest as any other person. So we have had very good experiences with it, even through very challenging channels. I can think of the areas group, for instance. They have like 700 convenience stores here in Spain and Portugal, and they're also in the States, and they get excellent response rates even through QR codes, which that are in store. Another thing that you can do is to gamify surveys, and actually, this was the example that I was showing you before. You can disguise surveys or as quizzes, as contests. What do you value most in a data plan? And then at the end, you could be giving an incentive or just doing a raffle for X data plans, etc., etc. These things work very, very well. So we definitely encourage you to experiment with them, try them, and check the evolution, of course. And if they work for you. Actually, we do that ourselves all the time when we attend different events. We do this to gather insights, to learn what people want, and actually also to showcase some of our technologies. This was one event that we attended in Phoenix, and you can see, it's super cool. The elements, the animations, people just love them, and there is no a send button. So depending on what you say, the multi-response system kicks in, and it's really nice, and you're guiding people so that everyone gets to the end. Really, super cool thing. All right, text analytics. I will just mention this very briefly. I'm not going into this. We do have our own text analytics engine, but we also work with some partners in this. Actually, with the best partner there is, which is Clarabridge. We are a great partner of Clarabridge's, and we have some absolutely great clients together with them in the States, in Europe. So definitely something that I encourage you to do if you're not doing that already. We do multiple categorization in multiple languages, emotional analysis, effort analysis, and there is great intelligence that you can get out of insights, out of unstructured data. And of course, the close the loop system. We have a full case management and close the loop system within OPINATOR. You're going to be able to generate tickets depending on certain conditions, distribute them to the right people in your organization, get them to act on them. We can even have OPs within that process to help your agents, close the cases faster. Okay, that's one of the things that we are doing, using OPINATOR to help people internally to close those tickets, and also to measure whether at the end of the cycle whether the client is satisfied. Okay, for instance, in call centers, if there was not a first call resolution, there's a whole process. At the end of the process, the customer is sent an OP again to double check that case was indeed closed. Okay, and this is the last one, number 10. Generate value and even revenue from customer feedback. I've got about 2 minutes left, but this is super powerful, and this is a game changer completely, because traditionally voice of the customer, quality measurements, NPS has been conceived as a cost, and most CX practitioners were sitting or belong to cost centers. Okay, and we as a natural process of thinking about surveys as conversations that you're having with someone, where you can when you talk to someone, you start you might find that person is not very happy with you, or you might find that person is in love with you, and that actually she would buy a lot more from you, but maybe she's not getting the right people calling in, etc. So we have been working on this concept of how to drive value directly. This is not just indirectly. We all know that if you improve your CX, the ROI will come. Okay, and there is a ton of literature about that. But this is about how to generate value directly in that precise moment where the interaction is taking place. And we've been, testing this and experimenting with this with sales and marketing teams together with the CX teams in some companies, banks, for instance, okay? And, measure things and at the same time merge them with revenue generating actions, across every stage of your marketing funnel, whether, it's just the awareness, interest, when someone is, really converting, loyalty or advocacy. And some things that we do there is, upsell. For instance, we get the business to identify certain things or get certain insights that, that correspond to a person, being very likely to move, for instance, from a data plan to a higher data plan. And as you're getting those insights, you can do more things, okay? Cross-sell. One of the great things that we're doing is referral programs with OPs. It's all OP-based, and, it's amplified over private channels or public channels. We are doing that very successfully over social networks, WhatsApp, email, etc. Let me show you just a couple of examples, and with that, I'm going to end. For instance, Mark's, this retail in Canada, we are working with different brands in Canadian Tire, FGL, Mark's, Canadian Tire itself. One of the things that they realized is that they could do incredible, mixed things with OPINATOR, like, listen to their customers and get insights, and at the same time, do like market research combined with a marketing action. So in this case, they wanted to build a digital closet, and it's, it's very similar to a survey. And the great thing is that we already had the slider element of interaction, so we just needed to adapt it to them. And this was done actually in 48 hours. And from that point on, they can start getting insights about each particular person's, preferences. And when they click on, send or whatever, at the same time, they're getting that person to their website with a number of filters. So that person will start browsing this website with those filters on in a completely personalized way. Or actually, they could be taking that person straight to the cart, all right? So think about, how many surveys, companies do and launch and send to their customers. Even if a tiny percentage gets converted into real value, that is going to mean a lot of money. And the way your company is going to see you, the CX practitioner, is not going to be as someone that just spends money to do surveys. It's someone that is generating value for the company and even revenue. All right, so to summarize, we've seen some examples, and I'll summarize them here. I will not, repeat them for you. Some techniques, some of them very briefly for the sake of time, that can really change the way you start interacting with your customers and take your new surveys, those experiences, those digital interactions to a new level. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David, for a great presentation. We do now have a little bit of time for questions. So to the audience, you are able to submit questions via the questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel. And we will be able to ask those of David. So David, we have had a couple questions come in. And so we'll just get started with, what would you say could improve response rate? Is it about the branding, or is there more behind it?
Great question. It's a combination of factors. So when you put some things that I've been touching on together, you're going to see spectacular increases. That's for sure. it's very important to make it, if you're sending someone a survey out of the blue, right? I was talking to a huge, global telco last week, and they told me we're sending random text messages to our, customer base. Even if you have a great design, it's basically it's going to help, certainly, because they were getting like 16% of the people were opening, were clicking, but less than 1% were, responding. So it's certainly going to help, but you also need to be, as I said before, in the right place at the right time. Integrate that, make that part of the process, make it context dependent, make it specific, personalize it, okay, make it short. So when you start, and you can start, almost immediately, you can start, applying some of those techniques and, see improvements immediately. But it's going to be a combination of factors for sure.
Thanks, David. I have a quick one here. Is Arabic language possible?
Oh, absolutely. We support close to 1,000 languages. That's one of the questions that I love. And I always get this portfolio that I have here ready, for, and actually, we're doing several in Arabic. This is kind of an older one for Infinity in the Middle East, but definitely we have, Russian, Chinese, Korean, you name it, even more less common languages.
Great, thank you for that. The next one is, how would you engage with social commerce and e-commerce?
Great. E-commerce is very, very similar. So this is a great question. It's something that we have talked about and that we've been working on for so many years. I mean, basically, e-commerce is going to be processes like this, in several stages, and we can help many stages with different things. For instance, for awareness, how to increase it with surveys or insights that are also a lot of fun to interact with, in a kind of a quiz mode, gamified, things like that to increase your interest. And of course, once someone has purchased, how to increase loyalty, upsell, cross-sell. Some of the examples that I've been showing you, for instance, the Marks one, and even the this one for that bank is very typically an e-commerce process. So you can think of this is a very common process. Actually, I think the most common kind of interaction on the internet. Whether you're getting your boarding pass or buying something, purchasing something in Amazon, it's basically some steps. Some of them are pretty boring ones, old forms, and we can help there. For instance, one of the things that we are getting with this is very precise information, very specific, information about where customer effort is. So we help companies fine tune those processes, and they can know, for instance, we're working with this bank that has, tons of different OPs and inserted or integrated into their processes. Actually, for instance, this bank has got over 1,000 touch points across multiple channels. You can see here the Android app, the iPhone app, mobile web, private web, etc., etc. Everything built with omnichannel saturation control, etc. This bank, if they launch a new product, such as a new mortgage, the first thing that they do is they put OPs around. So as they are launching the campaign on national TV, immediately they know what is happening, what is working, what is not working, how customers are interacting with it, what problems they're seeing, etc.
Thanks, David. We do have time for one more question. So that one is, where should I begin if I wanted to move beyond the old type of survey and start implementing more of these human VOC, CX management programs, and how long would it take me?
Great question also. We recommend starting small. Most companies in the digital world make this, over and over again, the same mistake is that, the digital world is plastic, and it encompasses, everything, and pretty soon you get lost because it's too much. So start with something, start small. And with all of our customers, even with the larger ones, instead of trying to sell them the full enchilada, okay, we were patient and we encourage them to be patient, to try things, to test things. Well, you don't need to make a huge investment. You can start, applying some of these techniques, change your forms. Once you start using OPIs, I can tell you, there is no going back ever to those terrible, horrible, forms. You'll wonder how you were trying to interact with your customers in that way. Okay, so you can start small, and then you can set, very agile plans, and we do that over and over again with our clients. We have clients that we started talking to them, a couple of weeks ago, and they have already launched things, and there is already launching things. And as they go along, they get, more and more excited, and they learn and they change. And platform is so flexible that, they can start applying new things and show their organization their great progress.
Well, thanks, David. I really appreciate that. I think we're out of time for questions, so I am going to close everything up. But I did want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we hope that you enjoyed hearing from David from Opinator, and hopefully you're walking away with some fresh new ideas and insights. As a reminder, we have recorded this webinar, and it will be emailed to you later today, and the recording will also be posted on the CXPA website. If we didn't get to your question today, we will be able to post the answers along with the recording once we have them ready, or the team will follow up directly with you as well if you've provided your contact information. And if you are a CCXP, your CRC for attending this webinar will be added to your account within 2 weeks. And I'd just like to again say thank you to David Solana for his insights today. And I'd also like to mention our appreciation for Opinator for their ongoing support of the CXPA. And we hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you so much, Molly. Just let me add that, if anyone's got another question, of course, they can send it to you. You also have my email address there. So, happy to connect. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone.
A great one. Bye-bye.